Shame is a strong emotion. We all feel it, and some of us enjoy it. Today's Kinky Catboy episode will be about humiliation and degradation. My friend Jade offered herself to give us an insight into the mind of a humiliation kinkster. I'm very happy to have her. Please enjoy. Welcome everyone! Tonight's episode is going to be very spicy because our topic today will be humiliation and degradation, which is I would say, a pretty popular kink, but also a very fascinating one. And with me, I've got my good friend Jade over here, a doll vtuber, and she
Hello.
will bring us into her mind and allow us to dig deep into this very fascinating kink. Thank you for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
So you are a doll VTuber, right?
hmm I am 6 foot at 1/2 scale.
That's why you're so tiny.
hmm
But you're also Nico. That's awesome. Can you explain your kink a little bit to us?
Oh gosh, I'm actually kind of new to it, but I've been kind of self-analyzing for a bit now. Humiliation. Oh gosh, it's one I found. I'd say within the last year or two.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's a wide variety, and it is kind of a doorway into many other. If you've got a humiliation kink, a lot of other kinks can work for you
I
because of
can
it.
see that. I can see it. So it's kind of like a basis, a foundation that
hmm
also gets you interested in other stuff as well, but centers around it, doesn't it?
Oh yes, it is a baseline for many other options.
So when does it start? When I mean, humiliation or degradation might be like a bit of a broad term, maybe.
hmm
Um, where does it start? Does it start as some kind of embarrassment, or does it include a certain psychological drive? What kind of humiliation do you mean by that?
Oh gosh, I guess for me in particular, and there's a lot of different kinds. But for me, it's very much my preference is gentle degradation. It's kind
Gentle.
of a mixture of both degrading but also praising at the same time.
Ah, praising as well.
hmm
Okay.
hmm The two in combination. So things like, "Oh, who's so stupid? You're my stupid little goober." That kind of stuff.
That sounds actually way more cute than I expected.
I know, right?
So, is it like more a physical or more psychological one?
Psychological, definitely psychological.
What does it need to trigger that you like it? Like, is it? I mean, the praising I can get that, but what comes before that?
Well, I guess it starts with the degrading. So, general insults, labels, especially, being called names, that kind of stuff. Um,
Ah,
and then leading into it, but not everyone does it that way, and sometimes it works even without that. Um,
mm-hmm.
but yeah, it kind of starts with the degradation, the labels, and then moves on from there. You can either stick with it. It could be some people do purely mean degradation. Some people go into praising, which is my favorite.
So you're
Um,
basically more into the, let's call it maybe softer kind of
yeah.
degradation, not like the hardcore like
Mhm,
lick my boots stuff, but more the okay, was it teasing? Maybe teasing
mhm.
kind of, but
I
then
mean, I'm guilty of both.
okay.
But it depends on who it is, and it's kind of triggered by mood. Sometimes it's good, sometimes not in the mood. I I don't I haven't figured out a rhyme or reason yet of which one kind of triggers which exactly.
I that's what I also mainly wondered about. It might be like a fine line, and at some
hmm
point you say, okay, I'm in a mood. I like being like called names. Some other points it might be uncalled for. Is there any way to signal to your partner when it's okay or when it's crossing the line?
Yeah, that's where you kind of just I typically go with just blunt, straightforward, or even safe words saying, "Hey, not right now."
Ah,
Or could you
ah,
try this one instead? Maybe if like they go for harder degradation, I might, if I'm not in the mood, I'll say, "Hey, I'm not softer right now, please," or even not in the mood for degradation sometimes as well.
Or
Or
can
even sometimes I'll be in the mood for it and I'll say, "Hey, be extra mean."
okay. Kind of reminds me a little bit on the War and Macrophilia episode, where it also was
Ooh.
a bit about degradation when, let's say,
Mhm.
the big person kind of teases the little one. But this was more like in a playful way, I guess. And here
Yeah,
you get maybe both sides, the mean way, but also the soft way. And I do think that safe words are very, very
very.
helpful in that way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, they can be, Vor can definitely play into degradation, both mean and gentle.
Hmm. Hmm.
But can also be done without entirely as well.
I learned in that episode that there's like actually like harmless war and well the
Mm.
actual well digestive war, which I never thought about, but yeah, and
Oh,
really
yes.
makes sense in this way.
Very
But
large range.
what's the main fascination for you? Are there like any certain styles that you prefer or that you even dislike, maybe?
Um, it's, I'd have to say, like, possessive, getting bossed around a little bit is, I very much enjoy it. Kind of turning my brain off, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when I get to just get bossed around, my brain just goes off and kind of goes brrrr. It's all the thought goes away, which is kind of it's interesting because it can very much be what's considered a trauma kink, which can
Ah.
tie into a lot of that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay.
So for some people, it's even a trauma coping mechanism.
Ah, I see. But wouldn't that like trigger the trauma if you like get extra teased or um mistreated in a way or degraded, or is that
Yep,
more like if you use it in a soft way to cope with it?
yep. That's why the consent and safe words are extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
I know some groups don't even use safe words. They use red and green light and yellow light.
Mm-hmm.
Yellow light basically being a hold on, give me a moment, stop play. Red
Mm-hmm.
light being kind of a hard stop, and if you get red lighted on, it's kind of a very bad luck, from what I've heard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it can definitely. That's where it's really tricky one to navigate, and where some people just kind of consider it taboo entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
for some people, even witnessing it could trigger their trauma.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so really have to be careful with who you do it with and with your play partners, because in the wrong situation, yeah, it can go south really quickly. It
That
can be a
sounds
little
very
scary to
dangerous.
navigate. A little bit, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it's not for the faint of heart. It's not one I recommend just, hopping in and trying out.
I see. And would that mean well um that for example doing it publicly would be a big no-no then if I
Hmm,
think about degradation I do
mhm.
think of and I definitely have seen like videos of people doing this like publicly and but again you actually might trigger someone else's like bad memories and
Mhm.
hence maybe it would be a big well recommendation to do it like just privately.
Actually, there's usually places that have it anything publicly, or maybe not publicly, but like private venues.
Mm, okay,
We
yeah.
usually have lots of warnings, so you know what you're going into and what you might see, and making sure anybody can leave. I've actually been to a local BDSM club where they had wax dripping and some more of the physical degradation stuff like whipping and stuff like that. Not my kind of thing. I'm like,
Mhm.
nope,
You're more on
physical. I'm
the
out.
psychological way.
I wasn't
Mhm,
even into degradation at all yet at the time, though. But it
mhm,
was still an interesting watch, the ropes and all that fun stuff. Um, but yeah,
I
no, it ranges. For some people, being public can very much be a turn on to it.
mhm, mhm,
Because it's like I guess for me a little bit, it's kind of that public embarrassment as well as uh, being like shown off to
mhm, mhm,
whoever's um, degrading me.
mhm, mhm.
It's a little bit the being possessed is a very big aspect, at
Is
least
that
for me.
Is that also one of the reasons why you choose to become a doll VTuber? To be like a bit of a
Mm.
toy?
No, that's just an old obsession with dolls I've had for, oh gosh,
Oh,
decade and a half.
I see, I see. Although I do agree that I would say mm, even if you're into public degradation, it definitely makes sense to keep it more private. Or like in a private venue, there might be
Yeah.
other people involved, but they are still consenting to it in a way. If
Hmm.
people just do it like on the open street, I was like,
Yeah, in the street or like,
don't do
mm,
that, don't do that. It's just a bit rude towards like other people who are not
yeah.
involved and might not want to get involved. So, but yeah,
Yep.
if there's like a venue, like a party, for example, where this is like open play party, yeah, maybe
Yep.
that would be a good idea then.
Yeah. That or like a stream where that's kind of expected to happen, that kind of stuff.
Oh, a
That's a little bit more
stream.
appropriate. Oh yes,
Oh, I
definitely
haven't
can happen
thought
on stream.
about that. Oh my God, people could do this. Oh my God.
Mhm.
Oh, I've never thought about this way, but yeah, it makes sense. It doesn't
Oh,
even
I've
like
definitely seen
have
it.
to be. It doesn't even have to be like actual um kinky anyway. But like
Mhm.
those who know, they know.
Yep.
Interesting, interesting.
Definitely can be that way. And
Would
yeah,
it
it's not.
be?
Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Please go ahead.
Yeah, it's not necessarily always high key either. So sometimes it can be really subtle. So others might not even know what's going on. Though that's its own can of worms, I guess.
Interesting. But how does a typical fantasy that you enjoy look like?
Uh, um, for me, it's hmm, I guess very much getting bossed around by somebody I like, having them tell me what to do and calling me names and stuff, but still telling me that like um I'm theirs, especially if they get
Oh.
possessive. Because it kind of feeds into that trauma coping mechanism, at least for me. Um,
Mhm.
that it's like even at this low point and calling you all these names, all these things, you're still wanted. I think
Mhm.
is a huge part of the kink, at least for me, but likely many others, is that even in that state, with that word verbiage and those words, you're still wanted. No, any of that, even if it were true, even if it's just insults for the sake of it,
Mhm.
it's still you're wanted. You have purpose and place. So
Mhm.
it can that's where it can be a kind of useful coping mechanism, I guess.
Fascinating. That means it's also a way for you to let loose a little bit, to yeah, in a way maybe feel relaxed and at ease because you know that the person that plays with you, that possesses you, that they still want you, they still
Yeah.
like you and show their affection in this, well, maybe in a mean way, maybe in a teasing way, maybe that is very interesting actually.
Yeah, it kind of gives a way to process like a lot of intrusive thoughts and brainworms very differently. So it might be things you actually have paranoias about and fears about, um, but processing it out that way feels a lot nicer, and it's a lot
Mm.
less scary that way.
Because it's also still playful. I mean, you both know that it's just, well,
Yeah.
a play, so to say. Then I guess that might give an extra layer of security.
Hmm.
And I mean, it's even, it might be counterintuitive, but I feel like it actually works because this being out of your own normal natural character, like
Yeah.
maybe your partner's normally very nice, but in if he starts getting mean and possessive, he somehow shows his affection, and then you know, okay, the game starts.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it's very
ah,
much like, hey, even in my worst fears, still cared about,
yeah.
and still wanted. Um,
Oh.
and now it's not always with like an important special partner. For some it is, for sometimes it'll be a little bit more like you can do it with randoms as well. And then it's a different dynamic too.
Mm, mm.
I prefer the more personal touch, but I've certainly done both.
Interesting.
um, and I guess I'm still processing how to describe that, um, and what the triggers are for it, but it's its own uniqueness too. To just
Mhm.
do it with somebody randomly and have them call you all of these things and still want to engage and interact with.
But you mentioned that it's a kink you encountered in the past few years, like 1 or 2 years ago. How did you encounter it? Was there like a certain moment in your life that,
Hmm.
that made you realize that you're into it?
I think probably a lot of like kink servers. Probably various degradation captions across the internet.
Ah.
Um, at some point, I think started looking at them and went, "Wait a minute, why does that feel kind of nice, huh?" Kind of like, "Oh, wait, I was just thinking that, but wait, that's okay to think, I guess." Um, Also, I feel like I should mention this is mostly my own observations and study, and I'm sure people who are actually more within the degradation community could have a lot of takes different than mine. I might even be misstepping. I hope not, but do just want to mention that this is just my own observations, and I've not probably spent as much time as I should observing others doing it rather than getting into it.
But
And I've
but that's
definitely run into some people who kind of jump a little too head first, and that are a little worrisome at times.
Mhm, mhm. I mean, that's also the fascinating part about it. Like every, well, kinkster and kink is very subjective. So everyone has their own takes on it. Of course, there's like, um, I would say, more popular or terms, or that's if you share a kink, there's certain dynamics that you might share with others, but it's still in the end very subjective, and it's also why it's so interesting to dig deep into it and actually find out what's the reason behind it, what you
Mhm.
combine or what you connect to it, and so what kind of feelings, what kind of emotions do you connect with it that actually excite you?
Oh, it it gets me very embarrassed. My embarrassment, and also tying what would otherwise be intrusive thoughts and very negative feelings, and tying them with good feeling,
Mm-hmm,
alleviates them. Um, it can be, I mean, definitely turns me on, of course.
mm-hmm.
Uh,
So the
oh
feeling of
gosh,
shame,
a little bit,
plays
a
maybe a
little bit.
bit factor.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, like I said, my favorite one, of course, being possessive, with the gentle degradation, where it's okay to be all these things that your worst thoughts say you are, um, and being basically patted on the head for it.
Mm-hmm. Are there any like mundane things that you connect to your kink, like just getting teased by your partner, like no, come on, do the kitchen or whatever, like okay. Sorry if that was a bit superficial, but just an example, like anything
Um,
mundane.
hmm. It kind of can with some mundane things. I don't. It can be. How do I describe it? Because it can be anything from even being, I don't know, asked to make edits or stuff like that, gather photos or get a specific kind of hentai for somebody and go gathering it for them. Um, that kind of stuff can kind of do it. So it's even like menial tasks can be
Ah,
tied to it.
even some kind of work. Interesting, like
Mhm.
because normally wouldn't like connect task or work to something something kinky, but in the end, if it's more like a um, term of getting used or getting bossed around a little bit, is that like the main
Mhm.
aspect?
Oh, definitely. I'm also a workaholic, so
Ah, okay, that definitely feeds
it
into
makes
it.
so much sense. Now it doesn't go off at like work. It doesn't there. But with the right people and the right phrasing and behavior, it can just, it can be really nice.
So is there also maybe like um, something that happened in movies or anime or just everyday items that kind of remind you of your kink? Like if you go somewhere or like come home or watch a movie and like I like that. This reminds me of my kink. Is there? I
Mm.
mean, I guess there must be many in anime, right?
Um, like stuff like collars, of course. Um, Oh, Sundares. Sundares.
Okay,
Just that
classic.
kind of I hate to admit it sometimes, but I've been a sucker for them as long as I can remember.
It kind of makes
Um,
sense. I mean, there's nothing more degrading than having like a Asuka style tsundere, like insulting you, but also playing with you, forcing you to do stuff. It's okay.
yep, yep,
Okay, now I've got an archetype in my brain for this.
yep. It hits once they start wanting you to do stuff, then it's like, oh, I have that.
Every
Yes,
day.
please. Ah.
Brain goes dumb, but heart goes doki doki.
hmm
Is is it like a kink that you can also enjoy a lot in 2D art, for example?
Oh, yes, definitely. Heck, there's entire subgenres of, like for mm,
What is it called?
like even getting off to stuff um, like cringe can be an entire section.
Oh,
Um,
because cringe is also shame.
mm-hmm. So it can even
Oh.
be like, oh my God, you're getting off to that? That's so stupid. Oh, that's so cute.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Like, okay, let's also quickly talk about like shame and the different aspects of it. Like,
Sure.
cringe is a very different one than embarrassment, I would say. Like, I mean, of course, cringe is kind of like a second-hand embarrassment, but
Yeah.
like, what kind of different feelings of shame are there, or would you connect to affection?
Oh gosh. I mean, there can be oh, oh, that's a wide category. There's everything from like you can be shamed for doing something bad, being punished. You can be shamed for liking something weird or kind of dumb. Um, you can be shamed for intelligence, position, position. So sometimes you can do like a power dynamic. So
Mm-hmm.
you can get
Mm-hmm.
shamed for, being the smaller, lesser person.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but that definitely uh, triggers into that kind of coping mechanism because, well, workaholic. I'm used to being everybody's shoulders, so once in a while being just it's not true, but being told I'm incompetent is like, you know what? It feels nice to be not capable for 5 minutes.
Again, and it makes you kind of let loose a little bit for a moment, as long as you know that the person doesn't mean it this way, but it's more
Yeah,
like a playful thing. I think that's a very crucial part. If that wouldn't be there, it would feel super bad actually. But if you know it's like a playful degradation and insulting, okay, yeah, then it's still fine. Even though the words might be harsh, the
yeah.
heart is still soft.
And I mean, I've not so much myself, but there are people who do go that far. Who
Hmm.
do want it to be mean and do want it to be sincere, and I've had to go, whoa, whoa, hold up a little, a couple times, and be like, whoa, because I'm a switch, so I can do both. But
Oh.
some people definitely do want to be sincerely degraded. But
Hmm.
that can get risky. It can get to a little bit of sketchy territory at times. That's why it's not the kind of kink to just jump into.
Yeah.
And there's definitely some communities that are not so well behaved.
Is there like something, if you're like interested in this kind of kink, something that you should look out for or be like more careful about?
Oh, a lot of things.
Not getting taken
um,
kind of advantage of, for example.
yep, getting taken advantage of. There's people can go, heavy into things like fandom, that kind of stuff, and have their
Oh,
entire
yeah.
lives ruined. Even it's
That's
definitely
super
happened.
dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Or also the whole
Very.
legal stuff. Like people do like
Mm-hmm.
contracts of this kind of. Okay, I haven't thought this far, but yeah, it's especially when it comes to work. I mean, you mentioned work
Yep.
even before and doing tasks. This can be tied together easy, and yeah, that sounds
Very
very
easily.
dangerous.
Yes,
Oh.
it very much is. That's why it's not necessarily one that it's not necessarily a kink I recommend, like trying out. It's
Mm-hmm.
typically more, I would say, if you're already into it or you notice you're into it, it's okay. But if you're not, I don't recommend jumping in.
Yeah, definitely. Is there like a way to stay safe? It's kind of, I mean, no one can actually do something about it if they have a certain kink. It's just doesn't go away somehow. But is there a good way to stay safe then? Well, if you notice, well, I got a degradation kink. What do I do now? I wanna live it, but I also don't wanna get
Yeah.
like in trouble.
Yeah. I typically use, especially a lot of different accounts and alts and anonymous accounts, so I can kind of keep arm's length, especially if I run into some of the sketchier stuff. I can be like, nope, I'm out, I'm out.
Mm.
And then it's not tied to me per se. I don't
Oh,
do a
makes
whole
sense.
lot of play with these accounts. I kind of typically avoid it, with rare exceptions, once in a
Mm.
while, and that's more where I'll lean into the gentle stuff, because then it's a more important connection. But if I'm doing like average type stuff, I tend to keep myself anonymous, a little bit distant. And it's more like, for me personally, it's like these aren't my friends; they're play partners.
Mm.
Um, Sometimes it's the dynamic with a friend, and that's more on that gentle side, often, and a more deeper connection. But the majority of testing out, trying it out, that's gonna be anonymous with things I can quickly disattach. Like if I want to vanish suddenly, I can.
Yeah.
Like if I want to
Okay, makes sense.
completely vanish off the face of the earth, poof, gone.
Which is, I mean, makes even more sense if you act out as a VTuber, for example.
Hmm.
Then you can even have like a second identity to live out your kinks in a more safe way, which makes a lot of sense. Though I really wouldn't agree, will recommend signing any kind of contracts just for the
Yeah,
purpose of,
no,
of,
no.
of degradation.
Contracts would
Yeah.
probably be a bad idea.
Mm.
Setting up your basic consent, that kind of stuff is good. But yeah, I wouldn't do a contract with it.
Nope.
Nope.
But
Mm.
what's your favorite media to consume your kink? Like, for example, role plays would be I guess, a good way. But what kind
Yeah,
of media do you like to use for it?
it's usually roleplay. Often sending back and forth hentai.
Ah,
And oftentimes it's degrading for the hentai. Um, so there's many options. Without admitting any of them are mine, and intentionally including ones that aren't. You've got
hmm
everything from like it's. I think it's kind of why some people get off to amogus, emojis. It might be bathroom kinks. Um, you could do stuff like you could literally do like Barbie dolls.
hmm
And the fact that they've got nothing there could be the degradation aspect. Um, there's a million and one options, and some people will even like come up with custom ones just to make the degradation feel more special.
ah, kind of like a kink shaming, kink
Mm-hmm.
inception.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Interesting.
It's
It's
very
getting
much.
it's getting meta.
It's a very meta kink. But it can also be as simple as just, being bossed around, made to wear cat ears and called a dog, or wear dog ears and get called a dog, a collar. The more stereotypical stuff is on that end of things. That's a little bit more gentle and a little safer too.
True. So like, what kind of different variations are out there? Is there like, for example, when it came to war, I learned that there's
Mhm.
like three general kinds of war. But is there like, I feel like degradation is more a bit of a spectrum and a bit more difficult to put it in fixed categories. However, especially as it's also such a vague area, I'm sure there must be like main topics. Are there main topics when it comes to
Hmm.
degradation kink?
Now, first, only three of war? I think I could count more. But okay, I won't go too off track. For degradation, hmm, I guess you could say hard degradation, gentle degradation. I'm sure others have better categorized them. Um, But yeah, I kind of would say that those two being your biggest guideposts, to know what you're in for. Are you in for, um, yeah, that kind of describes it well enough.
Mhm.
Because you can degrade almost anything. Um, you could, you could, you could, you could degrade someone for being a normie. You could say, "Oh my God,
Oh, those are the
you're
worst.
you're a normie who gets off the Playboy." My God, really? Playboys, come on. We're we're on the internet. We have hentai titties, and you're getting off the Playboys. You barely knew anyone. See, like that.
Interesting. Inter- That's so fascinating. Actually,
Extremely versatile.
yeah, to actually listen to some of the things you can say in this way. Yeah, but it might make sense. And also,
Mhm.
still, it's like very playful, which is kind of lovely about it. But how
Yeah,
do
you could
Yeah.
even flip that on the head very quickly and go, instead of that, you could do, "Aw, you barely know any kinks at all, don't you? You just like Playboy? Aw, you haven't even found your first hentai, have you?" See, like that.
Mm.
It's an
Yeah,
entirely different dynamic now.
super interesting. Like, also, indeed, super versatile.
Mhm.
But
Very.
how do you get to know like-minded Kingsters? You mentioned like meme exchanging before, and did this also somehow triggered it a little bit in your case? How?
Oh, I'd say a lot of hentai servers, communities. I'm trying to think where are safer avenues for it. But that's where I'll usually use like a lot of anonymous accounts. Um, hmm,
Discord, the
I
so-called
think.
gaming communities.
Mm-hmm. So-called, so-called
So-called.
gaming communities. Gaming with lots of tissues. Um, I'm, I'd say typically, I guess I would have started off probably on image boards, where you have even more of a distance between yourself and anyone.
Mhm.
Anonymous accounts and all that, but it's on Discord. There's certainly communities on Twitter, which can be more on the sketch side.
Mhm.
I've run into IRL communities at like ABDL or not at BDSM venues. Um, shoot, all kinds of places. Um,
But how do you recognize each other? For example, Foxy in one of the first episodes told
mhm,
me if you wanna notice a feed kingster, they might stare down more often than other people. Like if
yeah,
their gaze um, switches over to the ground over and over again, it's kind of like a sign, and
yeah.
they notice each other this way. Is there like a way to recognize fellow degradation kingsters?
Hmm. I'd say it's kind of in the behavior, and the way they react to certain things. But I don't want to give you all my secrets now.
Oh, okay.
I want to make sure only other degradation gangsters can spot it.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
But there's tells. There's definite tell. And sometimes people make it obvious as well.
Okay. So because they're like more in a teasing, playful way, saying, "Well, like, okay, just call me this, okay," or
Hmm.
make me do this. Like, okay, this actually sounds too superficial. There must be like a more subtle version of showing this off. I'll try to watch out for it now.
Yeah,
Also,
there's definitely ways to show the affection as well. Aftercare is also mm,
oh,
pretty
th-
important. I would say not necessarily done as much as it should be, but aftercare is definitely important. Like I said, some communities are a little sketch. But aftercare afterwards, like you could come out after things are done and just go into actual comfort, that kind of things, and compliments and reassurance, that kind of thing, is one option, for example. Excuse
actually,
me while I grab a drink.
sure, go ahead. That's, actually, would like to go a bit more deeper into the aftercare aspect because it feels like it's a actually very important part of it. Like getting called names and doing lots of work first. I mean, it's a very daring kink, but if you kind of want to recharge your batteries, just cuddle up and get comforted for whatever happened. I also noticed like from the BDSM section where you get like the pain first, but
Yep.
the rewarding comfort afterwards, which just feels so much better
Yeah.
after you kind of went through hell, so to say.
Yep.
Is it like similar in your case?
Probably a little bit. And I guess I might be overplaying the work a little bit. It's, typically like, go get me this hentai. I'm in the mood for this right now. Go. And just being bossed around that way. It's not too much work.
I see,
Um,
I see.
but yeah, no, it can definitely be that aspect. Um, I have my own theory on the pain, which because I'm not into that myself, but it can kind of cause an adrenaline rush.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that with laser hair removal. I was like, "Whoa, that's tingly." Um, so I guess it can kind of give a similar little bit of a dopamine rush, but different as well, since you don't have the physical react. Huh. Actually, I wonder if it causes a psychological similar response, kind of a fight or flight response, even maybe. I'm not sure.
And that could turn into a kink how?
Because it would probably uh elevate things like kind of get your blood pumping if kind of trigger that um chemical response in your brain, gets things moving and kind of going in a similar way maybe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hmm. I have to
So it's
think
kind of
about that.
like how you get flustered, like it gets you flustered
Oh,
umpteenth degree. It's like you start getting flustered and then you just dig in and go even harder in the flustering.
true. Hmm. Did you have any favorite moments so far in your any situations that you really enjoyed or that you kind of like thinking about afterwards?
Hmm, I think that's a secret.
Okay. Okay, okay. Secrets stay where they belong.
Mhm.
But did you have any funny encounters then?
Ah,
Like,
let me think, and that stand out. I think I find it hilarious that there is an active contingent of emoji edits out there as a kink.
emoji addicts as a king.
Yep,
Okay.
slap an emoji face on some hentai, make the skin yellow, and bam, emojification. There's that,
Emojification.
there's actually a few artists who do emojification transformation edits.
Kind of reminds me of the blueberry king. Then when people want
Yeah.
to get turned to blue, interesting. That's why I love the topic. It's
Mhm.
just a
You can
king for
definitely
anything out there.
You can definitely get humiliated for being inflated. It can also, in that case, it can be kind of a powerlessness, loss of power and control. You can throw in aspects of um, identity death, even if you go into more the harder territory of loss of identity. Um, Especially if it's more kind of confined to that trauma side of thing, where
Hmm.
escape from the identity for a few minutes can be um, a gratifying feeling, but also in moderation too, because it can definitely go too far, like any kind of escapism.
True. One more thing, or some other aspects that I would connect to, like embarrassment, shame, and in that regard also degradation, could be like clothing, like having to
Hmm.
wear certain
Oh,
outfits,
definitely.
silly outfits, or cute outfits, or like something that's more on the kinky side, and that you say, oh, hey, that's too daring, or that's revealing, or um,
Oh,
that
yes.
that you connect to something. Are there like any outfits that you would connect to your kink?
Um, for me in particular, I'd say princessification. So
Ah, big
I'm a
dresses.
I'm a
Mm.
sucker for frilly dresses and ball gowns and corsets. Which it's I guess not even degrading, but change of identity. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you could do like humiliating. You could definitely do like on the simpler side of things, collars, ownership,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff. Um,
Absolutely.
you could go into um, could do into like full BDSM gear. You could do. I'm trying to think what else. Lack of clothing.
Of
Or
course, of
even
course.
one niche of hentai is actually the fact that it's not anything special, just normal anime girls in normal clothes, and that's all
Mhm.
it takes. Because that can tie into things like being teased for being a quick shot, that kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
there's an entire category of captions basically looking at the viewer going, "She's not even unbuttoned her shirt yet, and you already came.
Ah, yep,
How
yep, yep.
pathetic." That kind of thing. Or, "Oh, how cute." It can go both ways. But that is
Mhm.
an entire aspect of itself. Oh, chastity.
Oh yeah,
Definitely
yeah.
chastity. Chastity is very heavily tied into that kink.
In a way, because someone else has control over you, or because it's kind of like embarrassing not being able to get relief, so to
Yep,
say,
yep.
or just wearing it.
Or that you're so weak that you can't even touch it and you still release. Can be part of it. Any one of those things.
Oh.
It can go five different ways. But yeah, either the loss of self. It can be
Mhm.
tied to some more like degradation, feminization, loss of masculine identity, for example. Though it can go for the girls too.
Mhm.
Loss of any use there. Um, all of that. It can be. It's super versatile. I
What
could go on and on about the different ways you could
what what
utilize.
what about like a classic like begging, like if you
Oh,
have to beg for
definitely.
something.
Oh, definitely. Where you have to ask someone else for the permission to release.
Mhm.
Definitely can be utilized. 100%. Um, and that can even tie
Mm.
into certain things like you could degrade someone by making them get off to something specific. You could boss someone around and tell them what they're going to get off to. Um,
Oh.
which can lead into it's interesting, and that's where it gets you kind of got to really explore yourself and know what you are and aren't comfortable with and be able to pull up those safe words and set boundaries.
Mhm.
Because you can go into play of pushing past your boundaries
True,
consensually,
true.
like
Yeah.
consenting to push a little bit. But you've also got to be able to stop as well if you need to.
Mhm.
But it could
Th-
be somebody could um, maybe, uh, I don't know, maybe you're not into boys, but somebody degrades you into getting off to femboys. And it could work
ah.
for somebody perfectly that way. And maybe even when degraded into it. There's definitely a few people out there who are a little bit more closeted about their love of femboys.
True.
And
And
once they're open with you, they want you to tell them.
and I do think there's like a popular connection between
Mm.
femboys and degradation or shame in any ways. Like the whole subject of sissification, for example. I mean, it's pretty popular nowadays.
Oh
So
yeah, that's definitely
can
tied to it.
hmm,
But then you've also got to kind of gotta toe the line, watch yourself, because some people kind of take it too far and
yeah.
turn average everyday stuff into fetishization. Because you don't have to be a fetishized femboy or etc. But
Hmm.
it is also okay to be one too. So that's where you kind of get into, and I stay away from any places that actually argue about it. Um, Typically just not worth the effort.
Yeah.
I just stick to people who kind of enjoy and consent in the same ways. And when I'm around people who don't, I don't talk much about it.
That's super fascinating. I think we will actually bring up this topic several times again in the future because when it comes to like the whole topic of shame and kinks, again, it's super versatile, and
Mhm.
I'm now super interested in meeting different aspects of this kind of kink and just figuring out what the different connotations are connected to it. That is super interesting.
Yeah, there's a ton. And maybe that's why it can sometimes lead to dangerous situations is because it's so versatile. It is as it is a tool. and it can be as good or bad the as the person utilizing it. Really.
True, true. So please be careful if you
Mhm.
have this thing. Don't let yourself get manipulated into anything serious. Keep it playful, keep it consensual, and enjoy it this way. But don't overdo it.
Yeah, actually, you know what? But it's more of a sad story. I think the first time I ever did get hard degraded, it was way past my limits.
Oh,
Um, yeah, no, it was I think I was playing Second Life, and I was pretty new to the game. Um, Somebody slapped a collar on me. Um, Kind of made me their pet, which was that was fun. I enjoyed that part.
second life
And
pet.
then
Interesting.
then they put me in a little hamster ball and chained it to the back of a truck and dragged me around. And even though none of this, of course, was real, it felt very uncomfortable. And I was like, "Yo, no, stop, nope, stop, safe word." And they didn't. And thankfully, the game
Okay.
has ways to get out of that kind of situation, cut the connection, and yeah, I blocked them pretty quick. But it was even though none of that was real, it was still a scary situation.
Also, a very interesting setup to have like the
Mhm.
degradation in something like Second Life or Sims or like something
Mhm.
so virtual and still have it feel so real.
Yeah, that one especially because there's tools in that program that allow others to take certain controls from you that you enable in the Second Life browser. So you can go in and be controlled by somebody else, and they can make it like so you can't talk. Like you can actually have
Oh,
it so somebody can restrict your ability to talk. A lot of people into that. The one I guess I don't get is long-term transformation. Like some people will be turned into statues. That's all
mm-hmm.
their account is. They're just like they might be a painting, and that's all their account exists as for like months. And I'm like, my attention span can't keep.
Interesting. But although
My
I guess because it's kind of being exposed in a way, maybe we can find someone who can actually explain this king to us and actually also deep dive into this. First of all, let me super thank you for this opportunity that we could deep dive into your brain this time and
Mhm.
actually find out your perspective. I definitely
Well,
learned
thank
a
you for
lot
bringing
today.
me. Mhm. Thanks for bringing me. I appreciate it.
Likewise, thank you so much. I hope you all also learned a little bit about it. And if you have any questions, please post them under the video. I will try to answer them and maybe give a bit of my perspective on it as well. I find it super interesting because, like, again, shame is super versatile. And, like, I think when it comes to clothing, I would say that's the aspect I can understand the most. Like, having to wear something embarrassing. I have to think about this a bit longer.
Mm. Well, embarrassing feminized clothing is definitely a fun one. Also,
Hmm.
not an invite for anybody to come into my DMs, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and
Thank you for having me.
I hope to see you around very soon again.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, and everyone who watched, take good
Thank you
care.
all for watching.
Please stay safe and enjoy your time, enjoy your kings. Don't feel guilty about it. It's completely fine, and see you again next time. Bye bye.
Bye.